Township Administrator. Every year when the tax bills come out, we get a lot of phone calls. Understandably, we get that. And people ask about their tax dollars and where they're going. And I thought, you know, maybe a very elementary class just to explain where tax dollars go might be a good idea, and talk about some of the terminology that's thrown around that a lot of people may not understand. So I'm going to cover some basic definitions and terminology. I'm going to talk about House Bill 920, which is very, very important to you. It was enacted in 1976. We're going to talk about the actual breakdown of tax dollars for those that live in Concord Township. I'm going to go on a limb and say everybody here is a Concord Township resident. I'm not going to talk about Mentor's taxes, Mentor and Lake, or any, you know, this class this is geared strictly towards Concord Township. Then we're going to talk about a couple of myths that float around that we hear on a pretty regular basis, and then you know, I've got a section for questions at the end. But you know, if you have a question in the middle of this is a back and forth forum. So please, if you have a question, please ask it. So talk about some basic definitions. Everybody's heard the term millage, but what is a mill? Years and years ago, the geniuses in Columbus decided that's what they were going to call millage instead of a tax, but it's basically a tax rate. What it boils down to is a mill is, for every $100,000, a mill equates to $35 per year. So if you have a $300,000 house, 1 mil of taxes is $105. If you have a $200,000 house, it's $70 a year. That's the basic mill. And there's a formula where you take the 100,000 times 35% times 1 mil, which is $1,000. But the bottom line is it boils down to 1 mil is $35 per year per 100,000. That's what the state set that at. Everybody also talks about inside millage, outside millage. Everybody heard of those terms, inside, outside millage? Inside millage, the Ohio Constitution guarantees 10 mils of unvoted taxes. Okay? That's not something that you go to the ballot to decide. This is something that was baked into the Constitution back in the early 1800s, 1830s. I want to say, I couldn't find the exact date, but in the 1830s, they put that in there. And for taxing districts, you get up to 10 mils of unvoted taxes. Interestingly enough, it's not voted. It's baked into the Constitution. There was a citizens referendum in November of 1922. There was a citizens referendum that actually tried to increase the inside millage and take it from 10 mils to 15 mils. It failed miserably. And that was the last time inside millage has ever been addressed that I could find in my homework, was in 1922. Outside millage is any millage that hasn't been allocated in the Constitution. That's considered outside millage. That's what you vote on when you go to the ballot. So when the schools put on a levy, the township puts on a levy, the city puts on a levy, the library, any one of the entities puts on a levy and asks the voters to pass that levy, that is, anything that passes is considered outside millage. And that is always subject to a vote by the people. Whoops. two other definitions that people talk about. I hear this. There's market value and assessed value. Market value is what's your house worth? You know, if I go to sell my house, you know, I'm going to talk to a realtor, maybe I talk to an appraiser. It's the market value, and these definitions are from the state, but you know, it's the true, defined as the true cash value that it would likely sell for in the market. Then you have the assessed value, which is 35% of the market value. That's where the 35 per 100,000 comes in. Okay? I explain to people there's assessed value and market value. Regardless of which number you use off the auditor's website, if you follow the formula, the tax amount comes out the same. The simple way to do it is you take the market value. I'm going to use 200,000 for simple math. So if somebody puts a 1 mil levy on the ballot, you know that 1 mil is $35 per 100,000. You have a $200,000 house, so that's $70 a year. That's the easiest way to do it, instead of trying to calculate the assessed value and going through the formula divided by 1,000. It's a little more cumbersome. I will say, and I'll put a plug in for the auditor's office. They have on their website, and I don't know exactly where it is, but they have a levy calculator that's on their website. So if they get closer to November, if there is a levy on the ballot, you can plug that in and click a button, and it will tell you exactly how much that levy is going to cost you for your specific home. So that's a valuable tool that I thought was a good service that the auditor put out. No, there we go. One of the unique things about Concord Township is we have a JED, which is a Joint Economic Development District. A JED is a specific area. We partner with the city of Painesville, and we did that when I think most of us have been around long enough to remember when Lake East Hospital was in Painesville. They shuttered that, and then they built Tri-Point here, 07, I think, 07, 08. But we established a JED at that time with the city of Painesville, and that specific area over there, businesses and employees pay a 1.75% income tax. The JED was set up to undercut the market to become attractive for other businesses, because most communities charge a 2%, most communities charge a 2% income tax on employee tax and on the net profit of the business tax. Right now, we have 7 businesses that participate in our JED. UH Tri-Point, the UH Medical Clinic, which is I call it the Rainbow Building, which is right next door. Stephen Douglas Corporation, that's one of our newer businesses. They started not quite a year ago. Wonderful manufacturing company. OTS, Ordnance Technology Services. Sheets is in the JED. Vista Springs. And then the Skilled Nursing and Rehab Center that's on Discovery. A couple more are coming soon. I'm sure you've all seen the construction, Little Mountain Creamery at Cryle, Old Cryle, and the Johnny's Car Wash. Those have both voluntarily joined the JED. And then at Hunting Lake and Cryle, where they just cleared some trees, that's Ralph Victor Construction's commercial corner. Those are also, once they're established, they will be coming to the JED. The JED right now, the income is about just a whisker, about 800,000 is what the JED brings in to the township.
And
Yes, sir.
The businesses themselves determine if they want to be in the JED or not?
Yes. Yeah, there are some vacant parcels that were put into the JED early on in 08 and 09. If a business establishes on that parcel that's already in the JED, then they're automatically put into the JED. But, Sheets, Ordnance Technology, Stephen Douglas Corporation, and these three down here that are coming soon, they all voluntarily, we made a pitch. We sat down, we had meetings with the business owners, and,
What did they get out of it, I guess, is my next question.
Well, the JED has incentives, up to $10,000 is granted to them to help them with their initial construction costs. If they're a large company, depending on what their payroll is, they can get a CRA, Community Reinvestment Act tax abatement for a period of years, which helps offset their property taxes when they're just starting out as a new company or a relocated company. But in the long run, it's good for Concord Township because once you're in the JED, you stay in the JED.
So these are, it looks to me like they're typically new businesses.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Can an older company get into the?
Absolutely.
I see.
But we have found that a long-established company isn't going to voluntarily give up 1.75% of their net profit. That's what we found. Yes, sir.
That's just in the area we call the JED. It's not every business in Concord, is it?
Well, the original JED was established, and it's basically the Auburn Cryle commercial corridor that we had. Yes. So, two other definitions that I want to cover. There's the sexennial and the triennial update. How many of you have heard of these? Okay, right. We are right now, 2024. We are in a sexennial reevaluation. These are baked into the Ohio Revised Code, and the state mandates that every 6 years, the county auditor's office personally visits every property. That doesn't mean they're coming and knocking on your door. They drive down the street. I'm sure a lot of you have gotten the questionnaires. Hey, what have you added to your house? Do you have a whole house generator? Do you have a swimming pool? Do you have any accessory buildings and things like that? They do that, and then they update the values of your homes. Later this year, and I don't know what that date will be, but later this year you will get a letter from the county auditor's office that indicates, hey, this is your new property value. This is what we think your house is worth. In the halfway point, they do a triennial update once every 3 years, which is halfway between this. So 2024, so in 2027, they will go through and they will look at sales of real estate, which is taking place in Lake County, in the various communities, and they do some adjustments there. So right now, we're in a sexennial reevaluation, which is going to take place this year, and you will get a letter from the county auditor at some point, probably late summer, early fall, that explains what your new home value will be. And then if you disagree, there's some steps there that you can take with the county auditor. Now this is the important part. House Bill 920. Have anybody heard about House Bill 920? No? Hi Wayne, how are you? Good. Okay, House Bill 920 was passed in 1976 in order to keep outside millage levies from increasing. Prior to 1976, if you passed a 4 mill levy, and well, actually I'll use a 4 mill levy, and let's say it brought in $200,000 at the time it was passed, and then as your housing value went up, the 4.0 mills, it didn't bring in 200,000 to the community. Now it brings in 220,000 to the community. Now it brings in it grows, the tax grows with the value of your home. In 1976, anybody know what was happening? Everybody was wearing a win button. Ford came up with whip inflation now. I don't know if everybody remembers that. I remember that because I was reading the paper of my grandfather who had bad eyesight. But, so freeze outside millage levies from increasing. So what happens is, and I've got an example here, in November of 2019, community passes a 2.9 mil levy. Okay, the levy generates approximately $2.4 million a year, starting in tax year 2020. Values go up. So now in 2024, because of increased housing prices, that levy that passed for 2.9 mils is actually now effective for collecting at 2.23 mils, because you can't collect more money than what you asked the voters for. So if we put a levy on if somebody puts a levy on the ballot and says, I need to collect $3 million, and it's going to take, in the calculations, 2 mils to get that money. 10 years from now, or 5 years from now, I can only collect that same amount of money. Regardless of what the millage is, I can only collect that money. So what they do is they lower the millage, and it becomes an effective rate instead of a gross rate. And that'll become apparent here in just a few minutes. But this is the reason Ohio is one of only a few states that does this. Most states, I would say 45 out of 50, they let the millage ride with the property value. So as the property value increases, the taxes increase with it. It floats. In 2000, and the counter argument is, well, taxes will never go down. Well, the counter argument is in 2008, during the housing crash, when everything deflated, taxes actually did retract in a lot of states and a lot of communities because the values went down. So, but that's why you'll see, you see replacement levies, you see renewal pluses, you see new levies that go on the ballot from time to time, because, if your money never changes, but over time you've got inflation and everything else, that's how communities increase their revenue. So they have to come back to the voters. Everybody get that on 920? Because 920 is really important because it affects the millage.
Andy, this
Yes.
is strictly residential property?
It affects commercial property too.
Okay.
Yep. Now, this is an excerpt from my tax bill. I brought my own personal tax bill because I didn't want to put anybody else's up there. But when you look at your tax bill, you have gross taxes, and then you have that reduction factor is always the second line. That reduction factor is House Bill 920. That reduction factor is House Bill 920. And if you look in the upper left, you'll see the gross tax rate, 127.96 mils. Multiply that by 35, that's a couple of bucks. Actually, it's 8,787. Okay, the reduction factor is 0.507. This is for my house. Okay, so my effective tax rate, my millage that I pay, is 63, and then they carry it out a lot more decimal points than I care to do math for. But when you look at your tax bill and you look at this reduction factor, that is a result of House Bill 920. Right there. So, and then there's other credits because if you're owner occupied, you get a little credit. If you have a rental property, you won't see this owner occupied one. If you don't run a business out of your home, you get a non-business credit, things like that. But the important thing to take away is that's what this reduction factor is. That is House Bill 920. That is what happened in 1976. Prior to that, there was no reduction factor that was on the books. So when you look at gross tax rates versus effective millage rates, Concord Township is a little bit unique in that we have 3 different taxing areas because we have 3 school districts. We have the Riverside School District, we have the Mentor School District, and then there's a little sliver down in the southern part of the township that has Chardon Township. The gross tax rate, as you can see, is in the center column, 97, 111, 112 and change respectively. But the effective tax rate, as a result of House Bill 920, this is what you're actually paying in effective tax rates. So if you live in the Riverside School District, this is where you are, Menor, and then Chardon. So those are the effective tax rates. And then I'm going to explain exactly where those numbers come from. Here's Concord Township. This is just what comes to the township. We have 3 mills. Each township gets 3 mills of inside millage. So we dedicate 1.4 to the general fund. That takes care of administration, zoning. It takes care of the community center, all the recreation stuff. We dedicate 1.6 mils to road and bridge fund to repair roads and bridges and things like that. And then we have, and if you'll note, the actual tax rates, those don't change because inside millage doesn't go down. That follows your property value. But when you get into the outside ones, we have 4 on the books that are outside millage. We have the fire protection levy. It was originally passed at 2.7. It's currently effective at 2.04. We have a road levy, which is 2 mils. It collects at 1.53. We have safety forces. That covers police and fire protection. That is at 3.02. And then the fire station bond levy, which was originally passed at 0.6, is currently the effective rate of 0.53. So that's where we are. And I want to put a little plug in for Concord Township and compare us to the other all 5 townships in Lake County. Okay? These are all effective millage rates. These are what townships are actually paying. We currently have 5.06 mils dedicated to safety, total tax rate of 10.12. Leroy Township sits 738, 1234. Perry Township, now keep in mind, Perry Township has a joint fire district with Perry Village, but their taxes that they pay for fire are 10.19, and then their overall is 1747. Painesville Township, and then Madison Township is the highest. They have a joint fire district with Madison Village, and they also have their own police department. Yes, sir.
Is that after the levy failed?
Yes.
What you have any idea what it was before the levy failed?
Well, this is what it looks like. If the levy would have passed, that number would be higher.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Right. This is what it looks like today. This is what it looks like right now for 2024. So, what I find interesting is when you look at Perry, Painesville, and Madison, they pay more for police and fire than we pay for the entire township.
But they have more services.
They do. Now, in Lake County, on your tax bill, you'll see a blurb that says Lake County. And not everything is broken out. So I decided to break everything out so you can see exactly where your tax dollars are going. So the general fund, the number at the top, 1.0 mils, that is inside millage to Lake County, for the county to run their operations. Everything else below general fund, is outside millage. This is all voted on by the people, except for general fund, that's inside millage, 1 mil. So you have the Adams Board, which is alcohol, drug addiction, mental health services. You have developmental disabilities, narcotics agency, children's services, crime lab, senior levy, metro parks, and Lakeland Community College. I haven't gotten into the schools yet, they're next. Okay? You can see what the gross tax rate was. This is what this is the numbers when it passed at the ballot on year 1. And then as property values change, more houses get built into a community, that number gets spread amongst the people, and it becomes the effective millage rate or actual tax rate. So you can see Adams went from 1.6 to 1.2. Developmental disabilities is down about 1.5. Narcotics agencies, almost half of what they were voted on originally. Children's services for crime, everything's lower. So that is what the county level taxes look like as far as the actual tax rates. So 12.92 mils. Now you get into the school districts. And I don't pretend to know every school financing is truly Chinese arithmetic. But you have three different school political subdivisions in Concord Township. You have Riverside, Benton's in the center, Chardon's on the right. They have general fund, some have debt. That's probably Parkside Elementary would be my guess, and then the other elementary school, Parkside and Riverview, thank you. And then there's emergency that was passed years ago, and then they have a permanent improvement levy that's also on the ballot. But this is the school's breakdown of their gross tax rate, which is what it was when they came to you on the ballot, and then what the actual tax rate is today. Then you've got a couple of other entities. You've got libraries. You've got Riverside. That's Morley Library for those of us in Concord Township. Then you have the Mentor Public Library, and then you have Chardon's Library. You also have the Joint Vocational School, which is the Auburn Career Center. Mentor does not pay into Auburn Career Center. They fee a different technical school or Auburn Career Center. But Riverside and Chardon both are part of the Auburn Career Center taxing district. And then the financing district, that was established, that has Riverside, Painesville, Harvey, Madison, Perry, Fairport.
Not Fairport.
Not Fairport, just those four. I don't pretend to know why that was originally established, but it provides an additional source of income to the school districts, and for us, that would be Riverside School District. That's an older levy. As you can see, when it was passed, it was 4.9 mils. It's currently collecting at 1.92. So that's got a very low effective millage rate compared to when it was passed. So, when you add everything together, Lake County, which is that long laundry list I gave you, and then there's Concord Township's taxes, the school districts, libraries, Auburn Career Center, and then the Lake County School Financing District. These are the actual levies that you should see on your tax bill, which is this millage highlighted here. I may be off, full disclaimer, I may be off, a hundredths, that second decimal point. The county and the state carried out 4 decimal points. I kind of truncated that a little bit. I didn't see the need to go out 4 decimal points, but that is a snapshot of your taxes and where that money goes in Concord Township. And then to further break it down, schools and library, basically 60%, 59.9% goes to schools and library. 22.5% goes to the county and the list of, Lakeland Community College, developmental disabilities, children's services, senior services, and and all those other entities, and then 17.6% comes to Concord Township. I point that out because I get the phone call all the time about fixing roads or adding additional pickleball courts, or why can't we put an addition and make our rec center bigger? Can we have some indoor pickleball courts? That's been a popular question. And, you know, 17 and a half cents is what comes to Concord Township out of your tax dollars.